Yes, you come to the Young Democrats of Georgia. We will take care of you. We will find your chapter home. We will get you involved and connected with the right people. You can go to youngdemsga.org, contact us, and that's the quickest way. Honestly, we're gonna get you involved. Our response time is really good, but then also too, our biggest thing is setting people up for like outside of election year, where we find out that's
Right.
like a big problem. We come talk to these communities when it's time to vote for the president, and then we let our hands go for 4 years.
Hey, Posse, welcome to the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. This is Rodney Littles, your co-host.
And I'm Rodney Butler, your other co-host. Hey, Rodney, man, how's it been going since the last time we did an episode, brother?
Bro, man, the weeks are going by like days, bro. Look up and blink and the week's over.
I know I talked to you even earlier today, man. You was like, I was telling you, man, it's been a day. It's been a day.
Yes.
Today's been a long day. You know, you and I both do a lot of stuff out here in these streets, man. It's been one of
Yes,
those
sir.
days of meetings ever since this morning. So
Amen.
I was even late getting on here, but that's good. That's good to know, man, that you're keeping busy like you do.
Yes,
And
sir.
yeah, so it's a good thing. What we got going on today, Rodney?
Well, my friend, we have so much going on with this young fella getting ready to come up because Bobby Fry's on vacation. So
And I know y'all let down. So look, it's
I
okay.
know,
Bobby will be
but
back for in 2 weeks
there
for
you
this.
go. Two
But I
weeks.
know y'all let down. But Bobby taking a much needed vacation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But the guest today gonna fire you up. He gonna take care of the business. You won't even miss Bobby this week. So, on that note, I want to bring in Davante Jennings, the current newly elected president of the Georgia Young Democrats. Come on with it, bro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're up to, and what you're gonna talk to us about tonight.
Yes, yes. First, I appreciate you for sharing your platform with me. I hate I had to miss Bobby. I guess I got a lot big shoes to fill in with that one. So we're gonna try our best. But my name is Davante Jennings. I was born originally in Huntsville, Alabama. Um, Spent a good chunk of my life in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then we moved to Georgia. Got grandparents from Hinesville. My papa was stationed at Fort Stewart down there. So majority of my family comes from either Huntsville, Alabama, or from Georgia. And so I've been in the South pretty much my entire life. You know, lived every black experience you could pretty much think of in the South. And now today, running one of the biggest, most zeroed in organizations, especially in this election cycle, probably in the country, I would say.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So tell me how you got into this business and what was it like running for that position?
Well, let's start with your position. I might have missed it. Did you say your position right now?
Oh, sorry. So I am the
Yeah.
president of the Young Democrats of
There you go.
Georgia. That is the youth wing of the Democratic Party of Georgia. So you can consider me the youth Nikema Williams, in short, pretty much. So we anything Democratic Party in the youth between the ages of 14 and 40, that
Mm.
falls under my purview. We have 16 chapters across the state, building more. We need 159 chapters because we have
Oh, for
159
each
counties
county?
in the
Oh,
state of.
okay.
We have 8 caucuses, and then we have um, a growing high school membership. So we
Mm.
do GOTV, we do candidate forums, again, just the younger version of the Democratic Party. So that's what all falls on these shoulders right here.
In a nutshell. In a nutshell.
Yeah,
Exactly.
pretty much. Um, and starting out, I hated politics actually. We grew up always talking about politics. My dad would literally sit us at the table, no exaggeration, from at least like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning till about 3, 4 in the afternoon, and we would, I mean, long talks. I mean, history lesson after history lesson. Stuff at the time where I was kind of like, all right, bruh, like I'm trying to go outside. Like I'm, I'm trying to go be a kid. Like
You're right.
I can go look all this up. Now it's like, I think a lot of those conversations have helped me just know certain things or be able to have conversations about certain things. So wasn't a fan of politics, knew about it, got into it during the Obama time. I joined the high school Young Democrats. Really wasn't that involved for real. It was just more so it's a black man in the White House. I
Right.
guess I could be a black man in the White House. Fell off from there, and then you know, grew a lot of disdain for politics after the Hillary Clinton election.
Mm.
I was just in that mindset of like, there's no way we live in a country that believes this man right here is the best option that we can have to run this country. So I'm like, oh, it's rigged. Doesn't matter. You vote. Doesn't matter. Not understanding like voting is just a piece of it. Like
Right.
knocking doors, getting outside in the streets, like you said, that's a whole nother ball game. So came across a guy. This was now what 5 years later.
Davante, before you go on, do you mind
Mhm.
sharing your current age?
Yes, I am 28. So I just turned
Got it.
28 last Wednesday.
Great,
Happy
great.
birthday.
Mhm.
Well,
Thank
you
you.
look
Thank you.
22, but anyway, go ahead.
Right?
Everyone always says that. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 28, got a kid. They're like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Uh,
go ahead.
yeah. So, came across a situation where at the time I was working at a smoke shop, no real serious job with no real benefits for real. So I had to go attend one of those little clinics in order to get a checkup. So once I go to the clinic to get a checkup, pay like $20, $30 or something like that. They give you the checkup and you pretty much get a screening or whatever. So as I'm sitting there, there's like a guy to my right. And I'm not ear hustling, but I can, when people are like talking beside you, I mean, you can't help but hear it. Basically, I just heard him say like, I can't afford it. And the lady was like, next. And just the look on his face was like so defeated. I was just like, there's no way we don't have like a healthcare system that everybody can take advantage of. So in that moment, I was like, I think I could change healthcare. Then I was like, that involves policy. That involves politics. Boom, Google search, Young Democrats of Georgia. Found the Clayton County chapter and a snowball effect. And now I'm here talking to you.
I love
Man,
it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
that's a great journey, man. That is a great journey, and kudos to your father and to your parents. It paid
Amen.
off. It paid off. So yeah, great journey. Great journey.
Oh yeah. He remind me every day. You remember them talks we used to have? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So looking back now, do you see the benefit to it, and what do you see missing with a lot of young black boys and men's lives as it relates to being active in politics?
100%. I'm big on like your subconscious brain. Once I started to understand like what your frontal lobe and your whatever your subconscious in the back is, once I started to understand what this picks up and what this retains, my perspective on everything changed. So my frontal lobe having those conversations was like, this isn't really relevant to me. I want to go outside. But the subconscious mind was like grasping all that information, holding it in, and probably influenced a lot of actions that I started to take later on. And I feel like what we're missing, and it's crazy you asked this question. I literally was just thinking about this an hour ago. I think what's missing in the black household specifically compared to other households is other households grow up looking at the image of what, let's use men specifically, what a man is, not having to go find out what a man is or go, down paths that they think is a man. And I think the biggest influence of having a man in your space is like you see what it looks like, you see how you're supposed to kind of act and carry yourself. Nobody's perfect, but you see like morals, you know what I mean? Just how you carry yourself. The little things like a businessman always carries a pen. For some reason, I always put a pen in my pocket now. Like it's that subconscious part again. And there's been times where people are like, "You got a pen?" And I'm like, "Oh." So yeah, extremely important. Extremely important.
Gotcha.
What are some initiatives that that the Young Democrats of Georgia is what y'all concentrating on right now?
Right now, of course, getting VP Harris into that White House. That is our biggest thing. Huge phone banking, canvassing operations, text banking operations. But the bigger picture, once that's over, is our legislative internship program where we want to staff every Democratic representative and senator who don't have. Some of them already have staff, as Rodney knows. Little. Y'all forgot his
Yeah,
story. Y'all.
it's good.
Yeah. As you know, some people like a Rep Bruce come staffed up. They've been doing it for a minute. But then you got rookies who are coming in that, they're trying to figure out how to become a legislator. They're getting thrown 1,000 different bills. They're having to worry about their social media. We find that's where our job is to take these interns and young people that we have in our network, staff them up, and then we pay them. So you just put them to work, let them pack their resume, give them the experience, we pay them. So that's our mission.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background up on the hill.
Yes. So
Under the
another,
gold dome.
yes. Another snowball effect is I'm chief of staff for Representative Tanya Miller of District 62. Um, that came from her peeping the work I was doing in Clayton and a lot of the noise we were making in Clayton. And she was like, hey, why don't you come on and be my chief of staff? Because she was just elected. So I was like, like, that little imposter syndrome, like, I ain't ready to be nobody's chief of staff. But she told me, she was like, hey, I'm a freshman. You'll be learning this. She was like, hey, put your seatbelt on. We both going to be learning at the same time. And literally from that experience opened up so many doors. Mr. Littles, we were right next door to y'all. So, that old school wisdom, that old school game. And then you got the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, to where I was chairman of the Young Democrats of Georgia Black Caucus, and we did a partnership with there. And I just learned so much of how the state house works and how the state of Georgia works just from being in the halls.
Yep, exactly. So I keep hearing young black men saying, I'll vote for Trump because he gave me that check. He's gonna give me another check. But are you hearing the same thing, or is it just me?
Yes. I think we all hear it, and those who know be like, he did not give you that money. Like,
Educate him.
he did not clear you to get that money. That took a Congress to clear for you to get that money. And remember what was going on when you got that money. We were in a whole pandemic around the time you getting all this money, which is another side we talk about. People be like $1,200, like $1,200. That's what it costs to. How we put it now is like that's what it costs to buy you. It takes $1,200 to buy you. I'd be scared to see what you do for $1 million. True facts. People really have to understand he didn't give you that money, and that was a Congress effort, a congressional effort to hit everybody with a stimulus check because we were hit with a pandemic we haven't seen in my lifetime. I don't even think y'all had a pandemic in y'all's lifetime.
100 years, bro. 100 years.
We ain't never seen no pandemic like that. So, and then I think also too, that's what causes a lot of the inflation that we're dealing with at this point. So people just don't understand how the system works. But I want to reiterate, he did not give you that money. He did not give you that money.
And you know what, Davante, it was also given by a Democratic Congress, not him.
And who was the speaker? Who was the speaker at the time?
Exactly.
Nancy Pelosi.
Miss Nancy Pelosi. That's where the money came from.
That's right.
But Davante, you said that that's what we realized that people will sell their soul for, be bought for $1,200, and you said I would hate to see what they would do for $1 million. I'm gonna tell you something, brother. I'm the opposite. I would hate to see what they would do for $120 versus $1,200. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Oh, Lord.
If that's what you would do for $1,200, then it's like, oh, so you'll do this for $120? That means you can reach 10 times as many people and get them to do something. We laugh about it, but it's really sad.
That's what I was about to say. It's like, it's funny and it's scary at the same time because it's like, I know what type of people are on the other side. You know what type of people are on the other side. And one thing we got to admit, their money is long. Their money's long. What they netted $3.6 million and had $3 million expenses. That's just the Georgia GOP. that's a lot of money to have and a lot of influence you can start having in some places. Now, I'm not saying they buy people off, but I think with $3 million, $3.6 million, and $3 million in expenses, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to buy somebody off. And as you know, y'all lived through all these movements that I read about now, where a lot of these great movements, like your Black Panther movements and all this stuff, how did they end? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really they infiltrated. You know, they got one of us that was in the inside to infiltrate it.
And too, Rodney, I'll tell Davante this is that before, I think now, since you bring up like those movements back in the day and stuff like that, I think the confusion, or not confusion, but I think the way that the newer generation thinks is that they're more comfortable with not well they care more about having a moment than a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oof.
and we know that. I tell people the difference between a moment and a movement you got to sacrifice something.
Mm-hmm.
A moment, you just have your moment and just get on back, get your likes and get your shares or whatever, and get on back to where you came from. But you don't have to sacrifice anything with moments. And I think we're having way too many moments and not enough movements. So I'm glad you said that.
So what do you see motivating these young people to vote this season? What do you think is motivating them? What major issues are you hearing as you go around the state?
Reproductive rights, which I'm surprised at how much reproductive rights have even sparked a lot of young Black men to get involved.
Mm.
I didn't think it would be, I thought it would be something totally different to like really get people off the sidelines. But once you start talking about, you know, determining what your mama can do with her body, or the fact that like your wife or girlfriend now is operating under less rights than your mom was operating under, that's a big one. Um, the economy when it comes to people being able to afford just living once they graduate these high-end institutions. So now they're starting to think, I done walked out of college with $60,000, $70,000 in debt, walking into an entry-level position. You ain't, you're not making no money. You got a high degree, but I mean, still, you have no experience for real. So you're gonna start off at the bottom. So reproductive rights, the economy, and student loan debts. That's kind of like the main thing. You'll see young people like
Mm-hmm.
something has to change.
Do they realize who's been opposing those efforts by the administration to get those loans forgiven? Do they realize who's working against their interests?
It's funny because when you talk to the people that do know, I'm not saying that education has to play a part in anything.
Right.
But what I've just noticed is people who have some type of, I would even consider some college education, even
Mm-hmm.
past the like finish high school,
Mm-hmm.
understand how things work and how things operate, so they're able to like see and research. Well, let me scratch all that and say it like this: the people that I notice that do know, they've done the research. They look into it themselves. They don't look at something on Facebook. They don't look at something that they hear on YouTube. And even if they do, they're gonna go look at it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely tell people who are like, "Oh, I saw this on Facebook, and this got to be true."
Mm-hmm.
Like, what qualifications does Sally have on Facebook to say that like what you're reading now is true? And I think that's what we fell a lot into during the pandemic. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic really hurt us right now because everybody was locked in the house looking for somebody to blame, and there was so much misinformation and disinformation circulating around that young minds were just fixating on. So now it's kind of hard for them to even believe what's in front of them. You were saying in the barbershop, you were spitting some hardcore facts, like stuff that is like, you can't argue this. And somebody will still argue with you about it.
Gotcha.
That's a good segue. I'm so glad you mentioned Facebook and YouTube, because that's what I was going to ask you next. Is what had, and I'm asking you this question because so many I hear so many people spewing misinformation and disinformation, and then I ask them, well, where you get it from? Well, that's what it said on on YouTube or whatever, right? And I want to ask you, because I know you get to talk about this quite a bit, the effect or the pros and the cons of social media today on our youth, for those people that's under 40, Well, I'm not going to ask you to speak for people who are over 40. Me and Rodney can do that because I'm going to tell you, Davante, they are affected too, brother. Don't let them. And I know they are affected, but I want for you to specifically, for those under 40, to just talk about the pros and cons and whether you wish it would increase or decrease as far as social media is concerned and as far as political stuff.
Yes. I'll start with the good. The good is we've had a lot of social justice come from it. Things being caught so quickly on film, being loaded on Twitter, and in a matter of minutes, it's hit 500,000 people in a matter of minutes. So the speed at which information travels is a benefit to it. The speed and I feel like organizing and recruiting right now in our generation is 1,000 times easier than when y'all were doing it.
No lie.
We got a mobilized link. We can text that mobilized link to somebody, post it somewhere, and literally from somebody signing up for it, they can share it to their network. The spread is just infectious. That is also a downside because now if I'm able to spin a narrative so fast or spit a narrative out and it hits so fast that people aren't taking time to look at and do the research. We've all played telephone. I mean, we can't even get a simple phrase in a circle of 10 people around without it being misconstrued and mixed up and totally something different. Now we're talking about one simple thing started from one person, spread to somebody in California now, New York, Canada. So the speed of it is a beautiful thing. The access to the knowledge is a beautiful thing. But then the speed of it and the access to knowledge is also detrimental.
Especially if it's misinformation. Yeah, we've heard about foreign adversaries using the internet platforms to influence black voters, particularly black men voters, and discourage them. We talk about the struggle, if you will. How do young people see themselves as America is becoming more multi-ethnic in terms of the need to have the type of feeling that we had back in the day when you had the Panthers, who literally protected the community? They ran drug dealers out, they ran the gun runners out, they took care of the kids for breakfast, they took care of the women, they protected the neighborhood. There was a sense of village. When, back in those days, you didn't, if the Klan came through the neighborhood, all the brothers had their guns, mamas had their guns ready to go to protect the brother who was running from them. Now we're turning guns on each other. What happened? How do we get that sense that we're a family back as a people, man? How do we get that back with young folks?
I would love for everybody to go read, what was the book called? I'm trying to spit it. Brainwashed. It's called Brainwashed, The Myth of the Black Inferiority Complex.
Okay.
I'm going to try to sum a lot of what it's deep. It's deep, and it goes into how this is 240 plus years of propaganda put on us, on our people to rip us apart, by making us self-destruct. Because we are a very strong people. We are a very dangerous people in a good way. The 240 years of propaganda that was put onto us by making us value one another's lives less and normalizing what is so normal now, shooting up stuff, spinning the block, like things that we now normalize in our communities. We're now kind of dehumanizing each other. So now we look at even white lives as more precious than we do a black life, subconsciously again. To get everything back on track from what I've gained from that book, and you can read it yourself and maybe you draw a different conclusion, is the family unit. Is the family unit. Us staying in relationships longer, us seeing marriages, seeing family units causes us then to imitate family units. And with those family units being imitated over and over and over again creates now a village. Because now, you know how it is when you go to like a cookout or something. You got your intimate family, and then you got your cousins, and that and it creates that village now. it starts at the house,
Mm-hmm.
bringing back the black family household.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I like that. I like that. Well, what do you see as our chances of turning Georgia blue this year? What's it look like?
The young Democrats of Georgia will make sure we turn this state blue.
All
We will
right
make
now. All
sure
right
we
now.
turn this state blue. We will deliver Georgia to VP Harris on a platter. Like, here you go. Here's the peach state. We did our job. We just want to be invited to the White House. That's it. That's all we ask. But seriously, it's gonna be a fight. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a fight. But
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna deliver Georgia blue. We're going to.
Mm-hmm.
We organize better. We are
Mm-hmm.
true organizers. They're
Mm-hmm.
mailers. There's a difference between an organizer and a mailer.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can put some mail together and send it to your front door. Not many people can strategize a field plan to make sure we go canvas and knock doors and phone bank and text bank and putting on different type of events to get people engaged. So it's not gonna be we're not gonna dog walk them, but it's gonna be a nice little it's gonna be a good
Devontae,
little
let me ask you this. What effect, in your opinion, you're 28 years old, what effect do you think that your Taylor Swift and Beyonce endorsements and stuff like that, those kind of rock stars or whatever, what effect do you think that those people really have on the election?
Or some of the hip hop artists that endorse Trump.
I think it has a good uh, when you're at that level,
Right.
I feel like it has an impact. Um, I was endorsed by Fonnie Willis in my race, and I saw it's just something about when somebody vouches for somebody,
Yeah.
somebody that you admire, that you look up to, you're like, you're vouching for this person. I think it works more so with people who are less engaged.
Mm.
People like us who are
Okay.
engaged, we don't really waver with endorsements. I mean, we look at them
Okay.
as cool and we'll look at them like, oh, why they supporting that person? But it's not really gonna like change our mind or anything. I mean, unless like, some like neo-Nazi comes out and supports your favorite
Right.
person, then you might change your mind.
So
Um,
in some, you're saying that the Taylor Swift and the Beyonce endorsements, that they do have a good effect for that candidate,
I think
or
so.
you think so? Okay.
Just like how
Okay.
you mentioned the rappers, like I think the rappers do like it hurts us. I think so
Yeah.
because those target groups, younger black men who are not following politics, but they're following their favorite rapper. They know what tour stops he's at, what albums he's dropping, and he's like, I'm gonna support Trump. They don't know nothing about anything that's going on with politics, so they're gonna go with Trump too.
Mm.
I tell politicians all the time that the celebrity endorsements, okay, whatever that's worth, and especially if it's one that's if they come from the community, like if
Hmm.
somebody made it big and they literally came from Clayton County, yeah, that makes a
Hmm.
difference as far as celebrities. But outside of that, unless they like a Beyonce or Taylor Swift, I don't believe that they have that much of an impact. And I
Hmm.
definitely tell them that a lot of times other politicians endorsing other politicians don't have such an impact. I always believe that the biggest impact in political, as far as endorsing, comes from your grassroots organizations. Your
A
grassroots
100%.
organizations. That's what you want to try to get.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's why people target the labor unions. Like
exactly.
those are type of endorsements that people are like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. But I
Yes,
100% agree. If you're not on a Taylor Swift, Beyonce level, like
yeah. Yeah, or if you're not from that community, if you
Right.
like a
came
little
from that
baby,
community and you endorse a local politician, then
Right.
that is so right now I only have one more thing for him, so you can go ahead if you want to.
So, my friend, if somebody wants to participate and get involved in this year's election with the time that's left, what do you suggest they do, and
they come.
how do they reach someone who can tie them in?
Yes, you come to the Young Democrats of Georgia. We will take care of you. We will find your chapter home. We will get you involved and connected with the right people. You can go to youngdemsga.org, contact us. Uh, and that's the quickest way, honestly. We're gonna get you involved. Our response time is really good. But then also too, our biggest thing is setting people up for like outside of election year, where we found out that's
Right.
like a big problem. We come talk to these communities when it's time to vote for the president, and then we let our hands go for 4 years, day in and day out. If other organizations can't afford to have a consistent hand on the community, we will make sure that. So whether, you don't want to be a politician, you want to be an artist, you want to be a hairstylist, we're going to put you in our network and we're going to connect you with the right people. You don't got
Nice.
to be the next Warnock or Ossoff.
I got you, bro.
Good stuff.
Okay.
And Davante, you said how many chapters you guys currently have right now?
We have 16,
16, I
bubbling to
thought so.
20. Bubbling to
Okay.
20.
Is
Okay.
that in the metro area?
All across now. So we got
Okay.
Effingham County that just got chartered. We have a
Okay.
Chatham County, a
Okay.
Valdosta chapter. And then
Okay.
our furthest one is like no, Effingham. Yeah, Effingham and Chatham will probably be our furthest ones.
Okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
furthest away from the metro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. How you told them how to get a hold of you, and we really go ahead.
Oh, yes. You can email me at president@youngdmsga.org, or you can contact me by cell. That's 404-387-8044. I've been told not to do that, but hey, I don't care. I'm for the people. I ain't running from nobody. I don't owe nobody nothing that I know of. Contact me, text me, 404-387-8044, president@youngdmsga.org, or Davante Jennings, the first last name, on Instagram. I ain't running from nobody, so I'm open. I'm open.
My young warrior
It
prince.
was
I told you.
it was a pleasure, sir. We cannot wait to get you back on. Hopefully, maybe even once a quarter or something, so you can motivate
Yeah.
these young people,
Would
even
love it.
when we're outside of the election season. And so we appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you sharing your platform. Thank you.
All right, my friend. God bless and be well.
All right,
To
y'all.
victory. Do
All right,
something.
peace.
This.
Wow.
All right, yeah, Rodney, that was a pleasure. That was absolute pleasure having Davante on, and yeah, everything that cause you guys know each other like that, and so everything that you said about him is 100, man. It is
Yes,
literally
sir.
100, 100, 100.
Well, I appreciate your help on this, my friend. Hot
Ready to get
topics.
on
What
into
we
hot
got?
topics?
What we got hot today, my brother?
What we got,
Oh,
Rodney? What we got?
there's so much, man. But I guess the biggest issue is voter intimidation and voter interference with all of these moves across the country to try to make it harder to certify the election. Here in Georgia, as you know, the State Board of Elections has a couple of lawsuits on policies that they tried to pass just a couple of weeks ago. And then last week, they passed another one. And this one, from what I'm told, I went to the horse's mouth. I talked to someone who works in the administration of a board of elections on a local level. And I asked him, what is this about? Well,
You're talking about the Georgia, just for the listeners, make sure they straight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Georgia Elections Board scandal. I'm gonna call it a scandal. That's what it is to me.
to require hand counts
Yeah.
after the polls close, which it involves 3 people under the rule. 3 passes through 3 different hands. Well, the bottom line is that it will delay the effort, extend the day. Poll work is going to be all day, maybe there midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We got some counties, you got tens of thousands of ballots. And the count is not to see who won. They're not checking to see who got what votes. They're checking to make sure that the number of scanned ballots match the number of people who actually voted that day and signed in, to make sure that there's no missing ballots when they pack them up to send them away. That's basically what it's about. It's my understanding that part of that's done during the day, particularly with early voting, and that it's not required to do this extra step after the polls close. It's meant to delay, confuse, and create problems and chaos in the process. It's unconscionable and unheard of to make a rule change that violates the state law. Okay? So these folks are very clearly, are puppets of the Republican party and platform for this year. And that's what we're dealing with. voter interference. In Kentucky, they were trying to, I believe it was Kentucky, they were trying to change the electoral college count rules, whereas not doing it by congressional district and doing it winner take all. So there are numerous efforts going around the country, but right here, Georgia, it's really targeted. That must mean, what do you think? You think they feel that they could lose Georgia? What's the deal?
Well, I tell you what, now everybody should definitely know. Everybody should definitely know that when Donald Trump said that you remember when he said, don't vote for me. Remember that?
Right.
The man literally said, don't vote for me, I have enough votes.
Yeah.
He said that. He said, don't vote for me, I have enough votes. Well, now we see what he's talking about, because you remember how he asked the Secretary of State in the 2020 election for 11,000 and however many votes he asked people for. Well, Donald Trump looking at it as, I don't need those 11,000 plus votes that I asked the Secretary of State for some 3.5-4 years ago. Now all I need is 3 votes, and that's those 3 votes on that Georgia elections board. So that's why he said, I got enough votes. Those 3 people, is who he think that he need in his pocket, and I think that they are abusing their very limited authority. I think that they think they have more authority than they think they do. They might need to go back and read their bylaws or whatever. But yeah, Rodney, it's real concerning, around the country, what is happening, trying to create, confusion. I'm hoping that that's all it's going to amount to is some delays, because we know that in that last election, in 2020, when it got to midnight, Donald Trump said, stop voting, stop counting the votes, stop counting the votes. Of course. Yeah, of course you were ahead, because the little bitty tiny red counties all across the country get their votes, get their counts in earlier. And now you want to, even make it harder for those bigger counties, because it ain't going to take no time still for those smaller red counties to count their ballots, in Georgia, right? They're going to have their stuff in early. So it's going to look like at midnight that Donald Trump has gotten, so I want y'all to listen to this. It may look like at midnight that Donald Trump has won Georgia by 75% of the vote by midnight, because of what that those 3 people did on the Georgia Elections Board, which is required for Georgia to hand count all of their ballots. Okay. So when you got Fulton County that got 500,000 people, and you got, some Floyd County somewhere, I'm just trying to think of another county with an F in Georgia, or talking about those real, if you got those real small counties, down in South Georgia, they have, so they voted, the machine counted them, and now they got to hand count them. It's only going to take them an extra 10 minutes to do that.
Yeah, I see.
So they're going to have, all these little red counties around Georgia are going to have all of their votes in, they're exactly, very early, because nobody live in those counties.
Right.
And, and we're going to be still waiting on all of these 12 metro Atlanta counties.
Right.
After midnight, because now they got to hand count 400,000 ballots and put them in piles of 10, if I think I got it correctly. Yeah, and I think what they're doing right now, I could be wrong, is that they're not doing a recount to make sure that this is Democrat, that is Republican, or whatever.
No,
they're counting. Yeah, they're not looking, and they're not supposed to look at the results. That's supposed to be
it's coded.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a thing where you teach them, okay, don't look at the results. You're going to tell a human being, don't look at the results when they count. Come on, man. But anyway, so they don't supposed to look at how the person voted. They're just supposed to put them in piles of 50. So if the machine says that 5,000 people voted in that precinct, then you're supposed to have 5,000 pieces of paper right there. Scanned ballots and stuff. So I think that's the way. I've been real busy the last couple of weeks, but I think that's the way it's kind of. Okay, cool.
You got it. So that's what we're dealing with, trying to delay and chaos. And that way the decision could be thrown into the House of Representatives. That's what, if they don't certify in time, that's what happens.
That's what happens. And
so
we know.
It's a whole different game plan to, instead of winning the hearts of the voters with policy, they're trying to, what's that term that he uses so much? Rig the elections.
Yeah. when you're rigging it before it even gets started. You
Right.
know, and I think they even trying to do, because I think we have 2 states, I believe, that has that proportion their electoral votes, which is, I think, Nebraska and Maine, and they're even trying to, is it Maine? I think it's Nebraska and Maine, and they're even trying to fool around with that, so that way, if somebody like Georgia decide that they're not going to release their count by, I want to say early, I think it's early December, like December the 5th or something like that.
Yeah, early
And then there's no way for anybody to get to 270, or they looking at it to where it can be kind of tied. And then if they take the Nebraska and the Maine and make those what is it? One for all states, or
winner take all.
Yeah, winner takes all. I mean, then then that could push him to 270. So they just thinking of all kind of ways, the same way they gerrymander, and it's like we're not gonna ask people to vote for us. We're gonna create our voters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You got it, brother.
It's really a shame,
Hot
man.
topics. Hot topics.
Hot topics. That's a good one today. And
what we got for the spotlight tonight?
The spotlight, I think we know we got Project 2021. I think we got health this time. Or
yes. Project 2025. Oh, my brother. Yeah, my head hurt doing this research, Rodney. My head hurt. So I had to go to a source.
Okay.
And I went to the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. And they looked at Project 2025, the House Republican Study Committee, and the House Budget Committee that deals with health. The policies that they're looking at would increase poverty and hardship. It would drive up uninsured rates and disinvest from people, communities, and the economy. Over the last several months, groups of House Republicans and the Heritage Foundation have released policy agendas that, taken together, will create a harsher country with higher poverty and less opportunity, where millions of people would face higher costs for health care, child care, housing, and millions more would lose health coverage, all while wealthy households and corporations benefit from an unfair tax code that provides them with outsized tax breaks. These skewed priorities will exacerbate inequalities in income, wealth, health, and hardship across lines of race and ethnicity, widening already glaring differences that have their roots in racism, chattel slavery, and other forms of discrimination. That's the summary from that particular budget and policy center. Here's the crux, because I'm going to get into the numbers. You know me, I'm a businessman, bro. I want to get into the numbers.
Yes, sir.
So Republican policy agendas would cut a swath of crucial benefits from tens of millions of people and sell the nation's communities far short. Together, the Republican Study Committee and the House Budget Committee plans and the Project 2025 would, number one, take away health coverage from tens of millions of nearly 74 million people with Medicaid. Under House Budget Committee, 30%, 10-year tax cut, and similar cuts in the budget. It would take away health coverage from 4 million people who use premium tax credits to help them afford the ACA coverage. If credit enhancements are allowed to expire, millions more would lose coverage. That's under the Republican Study Committee plan and the 2025 plan. They would take tax credits and block grants that will go into states for this coverage. Now, the next big category is it's going to take away children's benefits from 800,000 preschoolers, toddlers, and infants who would lose early learning services under Project 2025 and eliminate Head Start. It would take away children's benefits from nearly 17 million kids in low-income families who would receive less to buy food under the Republican Study Committee plan to cut SNAP benefits from all participants. This would take away benefits from people who are older, disabled, or both. From 7.5 million seniors and disabled people who risk losing cash assistance under the Republican Study Committee plan to convert 50-year-old supplemental security income to a block grant, SSI. You're going to turn it into a block grant. You know what happens when it goes to the states.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, dramatically disinvest in the nation's communities, economy, and environment. The Republican Study Committee and the House Budget Committee were cut by half to lows not seen for a century. An entire budget category invest in areas like public health, medical research, safety from environmental disasters, and the nation's transportation infrastructure. Half. Lastly, these cuts would inflict outsized harm on people of color who, due to systematic racism in the U.S. economy, educational, and health systems, are likelier to need help affording the basics.
Wow.
I don't know. It sounds like a foreign enemy's plan. Why would anybody who represents people, particularly a lot of these Republicans represent poor districts, they're going to be hurt too. This is not just going to hurt people of color. It's going to hurt everybody who's in that income group.
Yep.
And a majority of the folks who benefit from SNAP and other these social service programs, majority don't look like you and me.
That's
They're
right.
white folks.
That's right.
So I don't understand the philosophy. I don't understand how they expect to get people to be on board on these policies. And maybe that's why, Rodney, they're trying to suppress the vote.
And, it plays into a lot of racist tropes and a lot of racial beliefs. And also, just like Davante was talking about, it's propaganda. A lot of it is as well, to make people believe, that they're not a part of something, that they're not a part of the people that's going to be hurt. Well, I remind people all the time, Rodney, that, you know what, even when they say stuff like, they'll say like, this is going to hurt African Americans, it's going to hurt, other people of color and poor white people. Well, first of all, when they say it's going, you literally said that it's going to hurt African Americans. That's all. You didn't say a portion of African Americans. That's not the way they deliver it, brother. I just sit here and listen to the propaganda. Let me tell you something. They try to make it seem like, black people are so poor and so destitute or whatever. But at the end of the day, there are more white people, not just per capita. I mean, not just in numbers, because obviously they have, they are the majority of this country, so the United States Census say, no, I'm just playing. They are. I just had to throw that in there about the census because it's a bunch of crap, half of it. But they are a majority, right? But guess what? Not only are you per capita by your percentage, on public assistance, welfare, and food stamps and those kind of things as a percentage, as per capita, but also in sheer, also in sheer numbers, but also per capita. So, and guess what? Only as far as whatever the government says, $14,000 a year or whatever it is for a single person, and 4,000 for a couple or whatever, as far as poverty rate, you know what? Then that says almost 80% of black people are not in poverty. So, they can, and that's why I don't understand why some of these, poor white people in these southern states, especially ones like Kentucky, especially ones like, Alabama, I don't understand why they vote against their interests. Your health, look, you're the one on Medicare and Medicaid, you know what I'm saying? And so, but you've been convinced, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, that you are exempt in some kind of way. But yeah, it's really sad, Rodney. It really is sad what's going to happen with healthcare, from what Project 2025 says it's going to do with healthcare. It's basically, you're going to be like living almost in a dictatorship, to where, as far as dictatorship with the healthcare, because it's like, hey, only the strong survive. And I can tell you right now, you can look at these two black gentlemen right here. We won't be a victim of it, so you better get that out of your head. If you that person that hope that everybody suffers except for white people, because they say, black people are going to suffer from this, brown people are going to suffer to this, and poor white people. You think they just included all brown people and black people, and then just the poor because white people, and you don't consider yourself poor. You better start thinking, Well,
the majority of non-voting, low wealth and poor working folks in this country could have saved this nation had they come out and voted in 2020. 2016.
Yep.
They've got to come out and vote. They've got to see. They have to vote for their own interests. Forget about what party it is. What's the policy?
Yep.
Don't get caught up in red and blue. What's the policy? What if you get in? What are you going to do to affect my life? What's the impact of my life based on the policies you're going to push for? Forget about what party you're in. Let's talk about the policies.
Just vote your interest. Vote your interest. And there's so many people that's been helped, that people that look like me, people look like you, people look like all kinds of people that's been helped from the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. They stopped using it, they stopped using Obamacare when they stopped calling it Obamacare when they realized how many people it was helping. And I think that is what I think that is what even the Democratic Party, like you're saying, I think that is what they probably need to concentrate on a little bit more, which are policies that are that helps everybody, instead of some policies that help these people. And look, I have nothing against the policies and things that they're doing to help people with college, targeting groups like people with college loans, or even health, even like the stimulus checks and all that stuff. But when you create policies that helps everyone, it is hard. Just like Obama, they've been trying to get rid of Obamacare forever. It is hard to overturn the Affordable Care Act, because it helps everybody. Mm-hmm. You see, so I think that's what, my little, 2 cents to the Democratic Party that they could do is concentrate on those things. So, but yeah, man, what they're doing with healthcare, I think that, Rodney, I think that it's a good subject to talk about as far as our Project 2024 segment that we do, our whole Spotlight Project 2024 2025 Spotlight. And I think the next one we have is it's education.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So education will be the next one, and then I think we should have time. Let me see the election. We should have time for one more, and I think that is going to be the federal workforce. So these are ones, like I said, guys, these are ones that we feel that affects our community the most, because Rodney and I have sat down and we've developed 10 of these things, but we just can't get to all of them. So we're going to talk about those ones that we really think affect our community the most. So
that's a good idea. Good idea.
Yep.
Well, it's always a pleasure being with you, Rodney B.
Hey, Rodney L, wrap it up for us, brother.
Until the next time. Catch the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, we'll keep rounding them up.
Peace. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.
1